Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. I hope you're having a great day today. And listen, I was excited about getting back with you and giving you the second half of some thoughts I had from the Mastermind group this last weekend with the Arete Syndicate. And, I talked yesterday with you about, and I'm going to jump right into it here, but I talked to you about some words that we got from an author, Robert Greene, who wrote 6 international bestsellers. And we talked a little bit about reality. And maybe you've thought a little bit about that. Maybe you've thought about what is my perspective? How do I view situations? Because we talked about how many people see the exact same thing differently. And you've heard me say before in the past that it's not the events in your life that have meaning. It's the meaning you give to the events in your life. And so we really need to analyze how we view our reality rather than assume and take for granted what the reality may be, or assume that reality is what it may appear to be. In other words, we can really determine our life through our thoughts and our perceptions. And, as we got done and we got talking about that and talking about how you deal with life, I mentioned just an idea to you, and this was the second half of the thought I wanted to share with you from Robert Greene, and that is that your attitude is what really determines your true perception. And it's your secret weapon. It's your strategy that you can use to control your reality. Attitude is an amazing thing. Attitude is like the lens of a camera. I mentioned to you that the lens of a camera is the way you view things through that camera. So think of attitude as the way you view your life and your circumstances and situations. And attitude is sort of like the aperture of a camera. You may not know what that word is, but the aperture is your ability to focus in or focus out. As you adjust that aperture of a camera, and for example, you focus in, you narrow in the view that you have on what you're looking at. As you focus out, as you move that aperture out, you open it up so that you see more of the picture in the surroundings. It's not as blurry. And I really see aperture and your attitude as the way that you tune in and out of situations, whether you are open to everything going on around you or whether you narrow it in. And so really think about your attitude that way. Now, there are 2 types of attitudes. There's a fearless attitude or a fearful attitude. And Robert Greene talks about, in fact, in his 50th Law, the book he wrote with 50 Cent the Rapper, he talked about the key to success that he had in life is fearlessness. And many, many successful people, he went on and on and on to describe this attitude of fearlessness. The problem is most of us operate with an attitude of fearfulness. And here's the key. You may not think that that's the case. You may think in any given situation you try to take the positive. But one thing is true. Your true and obvious attitude shows up over time. So attitude, your true, like deep, rooted attitude will show up over time. You may be positive in certain moments or not in others, but overall, attitude will be exposed over time. So you've got to look and see whether or not you are operating from a place of fearlessness or fearfulness. And fearful attitude, these are when you focus on the problem, or you happen to, even if you're being positive and moving forward, in the back of your mind, you're wondering how you might fail or what could go wrong or how I can avoid any kind of stress or being outside my comfort zone. Fearful attitudes, fearful people, they focus on scarcity rather than abundance. Fearful people find problems and they see problems and what happens is you validate your own fears. I mean, you've heard that term of self-fulfilling prophecy. When you think about a problem, it somehow happens to appear in your life. This may be why you're experiencing these sabotaging behavior, because fearful people will see problems and they manifest more problems in their life and they sabotage their own success. Also, fearful people will develop an ego. See, ego is operating out of a place of fear and scarcity. This is when you have to be the center of attention. You have to be the best in the room. You have to have the most validation and attention. You'll notice this. I've worked with people in the past that they have this ego that has to be fed. They have the ability to have to be the center of attention. And those people operate out of fear. They fear they won't be liked. They fear they won't be successful. They fear they're not getting enough. See, when you have an attitude of fearlessness, you don't mind putting the spotlight on other people. When you have fearlessness, you don't worry about whether or not things are going to last or whether or not you're going to be successful. And so adopt that attitude of fearlessness. Now, the advice that was given at the mastermind was two things. There's two things you can do to create a fearless attitude. Number one, decide that your attitude is a key. See, if you're not focused on your attitude, if you haven't actually made it a priority, if you haven't decided that your attitude needs to be constantly fed, then it's not going to be a priority because what you focus on grows. And so decide that your attitude is a key. And then second, honestly, deeply, and sincerely gauge your attitude right now and in every given moment. In other words, don't just take a positive look at it. What is your true rooted attitude? Because you have to be aware of your true nature in order to develop it and in order to grow into the best version of yourself. And so decide attitude is key. And second, gauge your attitude right now and ongoing. Now, there are two factors that were given that would steal your fearlessness. In other words, if you want to become a fearless warrior, a fearless person that will, leap over the flames of disaster or circumstances and jump right into life, there are two things you need to be aware might be stealing your fearlessness. The first is age. Now, I like to think that we get more seasoned with age, but here's the fact. The fact is, the more knowledge and experience you accumulate over time, the more you know and the more you experience and the more you go through, these things clog your mind. They start to build up. Even if you're consciously trying not to let them, your deep-rooted beliefs are clogging up your mind and they're slowing you down. Your ability, for example, to be certain or to know things restricts you from learning. Have you ever thought about that? Like I've had situations in business where an opportunity comes up and I think, well, okay, I've done this 2 or 3 times. This is what's happened. And that's a problem because what happens is your openness and your abundance and your thinking is weighted down by your knowledge and experience. So just be aware that age is a problem. And the solution to that is to always return to your roots, always return to a youthful attitude, always go back to what the Stoics would say is a poverty mindset. What if you lost it all? Get that hunger and that aggressiveness back. That's a key to overcoming age. Then what you have is you have experience that can arm you with your youthful intentions. So be aware of that because age can steal your fearlessness. The second thing is, ironically, and this is a true dichotomy, your success can steal your fearlessness because what happens is success creates ego. It makes you seek more attention and validation. And so I've had this happen so many times with individuals that have been best-selling authors or celebrities. I've even had business partners that they were so humble and so willing to serve. And the more success they got, the more attention they wanted, the more they wanted to feed their ego. I can think of a couple of partners in particular that the more attention they got, the more the success they got, and the more I fed their ability to create success, the more attention they wanted, the more they felt it was all about them, the more their ego grew. So you have to shake yourself up. You have to go back to that idea and stay humble and stay rooted and stay rooted in what you truly have for purpose and passion rather than yourself, because success will feed your ego, and that obviously steals your fearlessness, your ability to take more risks, your ability to be more humble and eager to learn. Just remember, the 50th law is fearlessness. So what I encourage you to do right now is I encourage you to really take an attitude check. It's like my dad used to tell me, check up from the neck up, right? And develop an attitude of gratitude. Develop an attitude of gratitude because gratitude is the difference maker. Gratitude is what will keep you humble. It will keep you focused on what's important. It'll keep you grateful for what you have and where you've come from. And that's a big key for you. So I hope that's some ideas that'll help give you some framework and some guidance. Polish up your attitude. Realize that attitude is what's going to help you tying it all back around now, attitude is what's going to help you to deal with, control, and bring your perspective and your reality into the zone that you want it to be in. Reality is nothing more than what you make it. Your life is nothing more than the meaning and emotions that you choose to give it. That's my message for today. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Once again, this is the Daily Mastermind. Share this episode. Do me a favor and push this episode out. Don't think about it. Just do it and make the change and make the difference in someone else's life. That's my message for today. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend, and I will talk to you again on Monday.